The purpose of these lessons is to show you the logic behind the most basic Chinese characters, beginning with the simplest pictograms, and later combining these elements to create more complex characters. This lesson is the fourth installment introducing characters containing that ceremonial knife, pronounced xin, but in today's characters, xin has been reduced to what appears to be li, meaning to stand, as in 站立起来. As I've explained in every lesson in this series, this knife was originally used for bloodletting as a religious purification ritual during the ancient Shang dynasty around 1600 BC. Much later, in the Han dynasty, starting in 200 BC, bloodletting was looked upon as an abhorrent act, and this ceremonial knife was repurposed for tattooing or otherwise inflicting scars on criminals and slaves as punishment and as a means of identification. Today's first character in Oricobone script depicts this sacred knife above a person with a huge eye standing on a raised earthen mound in front of a temple. The character is pronounced second tone, tong. If you recall from lesson 10, tu, meaning earth, also stood for the earth god. As you can see, the modern character is a severe distortion of the original, reforming it with dong, meaning east, as its phonetic component. Taken together, the original combination represented a person who, having undergone religious purification, stands wide-eyed in a trance in front of the temple, communicating with the spirit world. This person was a shaman or spiritual medium who would normally be a chaste young male. This last sense of chaste and young can be found in phrases such as 童男 and 童女 for a virgin boy or girl, and even bald or bare, as in 童山 for bare hills. You'll notice that in many traditional paintings of Chinese New Year's festivities, young boys are often depicted as bald with maybe a tuft of hair in the middle. As I explained earlier, xin indicated religious purification in the Shang dynasty, but by the Han dynasty had become an instrument for inflicting punishment on criminals. For this reason, later Chinese scholars with a sketchy knowledge of ancient Oricobone writing simply interpreted any character containing xin to refer to slaves or criminals. Some dictionaries, therefore, merely say that this new character, tong, originally meant a slave, and probably a young male slave. Today, tong can refer to any child, especially in combination with 儿童. 父母理当负责，使儿童走上正道. Parents are responsible for keeping their children on the right path. If 童 refers to a child, then 童年 would mean one's childhood years. 那句话使我想起童年的往事. That sentence reminded me of my childhood. 那情景使他回想起在法国的童年. That scene brought to mind her childhood in France. 我们家徒四壁，我童年过得很辛苦. I had a hard-scrabble upbringing because our family was extremely poor. Notice the idiom for extremely poor from lesson 108, 家徒四壁. Child labor at one time completely normal in all societies, is expressed as 童工。他在一家工厂当童工。He worked as a child laborer in a factory. 今天是世界反童工日。Today is World Anti-Child Labor Day. Fairy tales and children's stories are rendered as 童话。你的童话生活到此为止了。Your fairy tale existence ends here and now. 在这个童话中，主角当然是个仙女。The central character in this children's story is naturally a fairy. 少女们相信这不过是一个童话而已。The girls believed it to be just a nursery story. Our second character today is composed of the metal radical 金 plus 童 as its phonetic and semantic elements. It's pronounced first tone 中 and means a large bell. My unabridged Chinese dictionary explains that 童 means a slave who's beaten regularly. So 中 means a metallic instrument, 金 that's beaten regularly, 童 such as when ringing out the times of day. Sounds a bit far-fetched to me, but as I've said before, Chinese etymologists do their best to rationalize the combination of components within a character. Regardless of the reasoning, it may serve as a helpful memory device for students of the language to remember. Metal, beaten like a slave, for 钟, with 时钟, meaning a clock. 时钟正打12点. The clock has just struck 12. 时钟不走了，可能电池没电了。The clock stopped. Maybe the batteries did. In ancient times, nighttime in the Chinese palace was divided into 5 shifts called 更, which were further subdivided into 5 dian of about 2 hours each. With the invention of the 12-hour clock, the hours were assigned the term 点钟, literally dots on the clock. 不知道现在是几点钟了? I wonder what time it is now. 我得坐7点钟的火车回去. I have to take the 7 o'clock train back. 我的朋友在8点钟要跟我见面. My friend is meeting me at 8 o'clock. In Lesson 4, I mentioned that 本 is the measure word for nouns referring to books, 一本书, and that sometimes the measure word is put after the noun for a more generalized meaning of books as a group, 书本, as in such expressions as book knowledge or book learning. This same phenomenon occurs with 一点钟, meaning 1 o'clock, and 一个钟点, meaning 1 hour. 钟点 can also be simply translated as a specified time. 钟点到了，我们开会吧. It's time. Let's start the meeting. 那男生常坐在那里好几个钟点，看着行人通过. The boy often sat there for hours, watching people pass by. Hours are more commonly called 钟头, literally the major headings on the clock. 我想得花大约3个钟头. I think it'll take about 3 hours. 他一口气 讲的1个多钟头了。He talked for more than an hour at a stretch. 1个钟头又1个钟头过去了。Hour after hour passed. 他们2个足足有半个钟头都没讲话。Neither of them spoke for fully half an hour. The character 分 means to separate or cut apart. So 1 hour is divided into 60 minutes, called 分钟。坐车去火车站几分钟就到了。It only takes a few minutes to get to the train station by car. 足足有5分钟，妈一句话都没说。For 5 full minutes, Mom didn't say a word. The next character in today's lesson is made up of the grain radical 和 from lesson 71, paired with 少 from lesson 20, to create a new third tone character, 秒. This character takes the grain radical because it refers to the thin, bristly spike called a beard that protrudes from the seed shell of small grains, such as wheat, rye, barley, and rice, to protect the seed kernel from being eaten by birds. The phonetic 少, of course, is a variant of the character for 小, meaning small. This combination sounds useful only to grain farmers, except for the fact that it was borrowed to mean a very tiny quantity or very short time. Or in today's case, the second, 秒钟. Here are 2 examples. 1分钟有多少秒? How many seconds are there in 1 minute? 雨下得很急，河流的水位正在1分1秒的增高。It's pouring rain and the water level in the river is rising by the minute. Literally, by the minute and by the second. Now, before going on to today's third character taking the reduced 心 element, I want to add the measure word for vehicles, especially automobiles. This measure word was originally a simple tone change of the character for double, 两, because the most common form of transportation in ancient times was the 2-wheeled oxcart. To make a distinction, third tone 两 was changed to fourth tone 亮, and that was that. Later, someone got the bright idea to invent a new character by adding the vehicle radical 车. There are other, more precise measure words for motorcycles and bicycles, but in a pinch, 亮 will also work. For example, we already know the measure word 列 for trains. 那辆机车就会要了你的命. That motorcycle will be the death of you. 你什么时候才能收到那辆汽车? When can you take delivery of the car? 一辆开往南京的列车停了下来. A train bound for Nanjing pulled in. As we just saw with 一本书 and 书本, 一点钟 and 钟点, reversing the order of the measure word, 一辆车 gives us the noun 车辆, meaning cars as a general term, and 来往车辆 as the translation for traffic. 过街时留意车辆. Watch out for cars when crossing the street. 现在大街上来往车辆多起来了. There's more traffic on the street now. Today's third character with the reduced 心 element is made up of the hand radical 手 plus phonetic compound 同. It's pronounced fourth tone 撞 and means to collide, bump, or meet by chance, depending on the context. This time, my unabridged Chinese dictionary says the phonetic tong still means a slave, but not one being beaten regularly. Instead, the slave element here adds the connotation of carelessness, laziness, or recklessness when performing his or her duties. Literally, a slave's poor work attitude. 猫把书从架上撞下来. The cat knocked the book off the shelf. 卡车把骑机车的人撞倒了. The truck struck and knocked down a motorcyclist. 今天早上，我的狗被一辆车撞了. My dog was hit by a car this morning. 我婆婆跌倒时撞得不省人事. When my mother-in-law fell, she was knocked unconscious. The idiom 不省人事 translates literally as to be unaware of the affairs of men. That is, the affairs of this world. Another phrase for run or crash into is 撞上. 他全速开车撞上山壁. He crashed into a rock wall while driving at full speed. 我被避不见面的人在街上意外撞上了. I accidentally bumped into someone on the street, a person who had been avoiding me. Notice the idiom 避不见面 from lesson 108, meaning to avoid meeting someone. To meet a person by accident or run into someone unexpectedly, often when they didn't want to be seen, is rendered as 撞见. 爬山时，我撞见了小赖. I bumped into 小赖 while climbing on the mountain. 公公婆婆吵架时，被我撞见了. I walked in on my mother and father-in-law arguing. 我撞见了我的亲信和我太太亲嘴. I caught my close assistant kissing my wife. 我走出车站时撞见了新闻界的朋友. As I walked out of the station, I bumped into friends from the press. 我们回来的早，正好撞见了有人破门而入. We came back early and happened to see someone breaking in. Notice the idiom from lesson 86, 破门而入, meaning to break into a house. 他撞见歹徒正劈手抢一个女人的皮包. She saw a purse snatcher grabbing a woman's purse. Since 撞 means to collide or crash into, it follows logically that 撞开 would refer to forcefully entering a building. 警员撞开了大门. The police officer broke open the door. 他在这里，把门撞开. He's in here. Break down this door. 没钥匙，不得不用力撞开后门. There was no key, so we had to force open the rear door. In lesson 40, we saw that the character 顶 is the pictogram of the human head with the nail phonetic. And since a nail has a head at the top, this character means the top of one's head, with several extended meanings, such as topmost, the best, and to support by pushing up with our head or shoulders. By this movement of pushing upwards, we create a metaphor for offending those above us socially, such as a superior or our elders. And when combined with 撞, 顶撞, we have the expression for talking back or contradicting someone, especially a person of higher social status. 不要顶撞你的母亲. Don't talk back to your mother. 小朋友不可以顶撞父母. Children are not allowed to contradict their parents. 这个话题常使妈妈对外婆公开顶撞。This topic often led to my mother openly contradicting my grandmother. 我不怕顶撞上面，因为我就要辞去这份工作。I'm not afraid of offending the boss because I'm quitting this job. Today's fourth character is composed of the abbreviated sacrificial knife, 心, above the female radical, 女, pronounced fourth tone, 妾. Alone, this character is not especially useful, but it appears as the phonetic in our final, much more important character, so it must be introduced. What does it mean? In its earliest form, it most likely depicted a female servant undergoing a religious purification process in feudal times before being given over to the imperial family as part of the dowry of a duke's or a prince's daughter. Marrying a son of the royal family and residing within the palace itself was not possible for an unvetted slave or servant, hence the purification process. However, the traditional etymology you'll find in most dictionaries says that 妾 is simply a female criminal. This would not make much sense. The sacrificial knife, 心, you'll recall from previous lessons, represented a bloodletting purification ritual in ancient times, and only later was repurposed as a character meaning punishment for wrongdoers. Besides, what emperor would allow a servant or slave with a criminal history anywhere near him? So, those are the two interpretations of fourth tone 妾. 1, a properly vetted female servant, or 2, a female wrongdoer. Either way, 妾 is not especially useful except to refer to a concubine or mistress of the emperor in ancient times. All the more reason to be certain she had no criminal intentions. In modern times, that would simply be described as 小太太, a little wife. 妾 was also used in former times by women as a humble term for herself, instead of saying 我. She would formally address another male as 君 in place of 你. These terms are sometimes found in romantic poetry or in traditional opera. Speaking very modestly, using demeaning language about oneself, and flattering the person opposite is very common in many class-based societies, China included, but this is dying out as more egalitarian concepts take hold. Now we come to our fifth and final character based on the sacrificial knife, 心. By adding the hand radical, 手, to the phonetic and semantic element, 妾, we arrive at first tone, 接. It means to graft parts of one tree onto a different one, a horticultural process that's been around for thousands of years in China. In other words, one tree gives and the other one receives, which led to the use of 接 to mean join or connect, receive or accept, and extended that concept to include the sense of welcoming or meeting someone, as we'll see in the examples. And of course, it still means to graft one plant onto another. Now, if 接 means to graft, that is, merging the young shoot or twig of one tree with the rootstock of another, it makes sense if we take the first interpretation of 妾 as a servant girl being given over as part of a dowry to another family. She becomes a subordinate member of that new family. Grafting in Chinese is 嫁接, unsurprisingly paired with the character 嫁 for marrying off a daughter. Here's one example. 很多人想出了新办法，使嫁接成活。Many people have developed new methods for making grafts take hold and grow. To connect or continue is rendered as 接着、接上 or 接下去。他停了一下，又接着往下说。He paused a moment and then continued. 他动了手术，把手臂的骨头接上。He had surgery to reattach the bones in his arm. 我们回头再把主题接下去讲吧。Let's come back and continue the main topic. 山上的木屋不可能没有接上水和电。There is no way the mountain cabin is not hooked up to the water and electricity mains. To continue, one after another, or follow in quick succession, can be expressed as 接连 or the phrase 接二连三。接连下了7天雨，屋子里都是湿湿的。It rained for 7 days straight, and the house felt damp inside. 我坐在那里，接连2个钟头一句话也没说。I sat there, not saying a word for 2 hours straight. 请不要再接二连三地问我这些。Please stop repeatedly asking me about this. This idea of following in quick succession also applies to one's breathing. When a person's out of breath, winded, or gasping for air, the phrase to use is 上气不接下气。我有一些上气不接下气了。I'm a little out of breath. 爬上屋顶使他上气不接下气的。Climbing to the roof left her winded. 我追赶公车，弄得上气不接下气。I ran after the bus until I was out of breath. 等我爬到山顶的时候，已累得上气不接下气了。By the time I climbed to the top of the mountain, I was exhausted and gasping for air. To succeed someone or take over a position from another is 接班。大家常问我接班人的问题。People often ask me about who will be my successor. This person is probably about to retire. Similar to taking over a position from another is taking over his or her duties. 接手。你没事吧？要我接手吗？ Are you okay? Do you want me to take over? That person could be tired, or the work he or she does cannot be interrupted. 我不在的时候，什么人来接手我的工作？ Who will take over my job in my absence? To go directly or be straightforward pairs 直 with 接。请你下班后直接回家好吗？ Would you please come right home after work? 这样的办理事情特别直接又明理。This way of dealing with the matter is very direct, as well as reasonable. 我从家里直接走到他的办公室。I walked directly from home to his office. To answer the telephone or receive a phone call is 接电话 or 接听电话。你怎么不接手机？ Why don't you answer your cell phone? 请你父亲来接电话好吗？ Would you please put your father on the phone? 我得去接电话， 马上就回来。I have to answer the phone. I'll be right back. 我现在无法接听电话，请留言。I can't answer the phone right now. Please leave a message. If you physically connect with a person, you meet them or pick them up. So just use 接 directly with the person. 不必麻烦您到车站去接我。There is no need to bother you to go pick me up at the station. 我想她的亲人会来接她的吧。I suppose her relatives will come to get her, right? 我会派工厂的车子去接你叔叔。I'll send a factory car to meet your uncle. To receive a guest, literally, make connection with them, the term to use is 接待。您被接待了吗？ Are you being taken care of? 你们现在可以来，我在接待室等你们。You can come over now. I'll be waiting for you in the reception room. 他们那样冷若冰霜的接待，令我大吃一惊。I was taken aback by their frosty reception. Notice the idioms 冷若冰霜 and 大吃一惊, which are very conversational in Mandarin. 你们如此亲切地对我接待，我心里过意不去。I'm very much obliged to you for your warm reception. When you connect with a person, you're making contact with them, usually with a specific purpose in mind. This can be expressed by 接洽。请和我们接洽。Please contact us. 他来接洽工作。He contacted us about a job. 我已面对面跟他接洽过了。I have negotiated with him directly, one-on-one. 一家日本机构已和我们接洽，想接收我们的工厂。A Japanese organization has approached us wanting to take over our factory. Notice that 接收 means to take over a business from 收 meaning to receive. When we take something that another person is holding out, 接过来 is one way to say that. 我从他手里把大衣接过来。I took the coat from her hands. Here is our color chart with today's 7 characters. 同、中、秒、壮、切、接、亮。Here's a recap from today's lesson. 1. This lesson introduced 7 characters, 5 of which contain the abbreviated sacred knife, 心, and 2 that were added to allow for better phrasing in the sentences with the other 5. 同 was originally the character for a boy medium in front of a temple, seeing and hearing what others could not. This gave rise to its use for children and virgins, whether male or female. 2. Today's second character, 钟, is a large bell that came to represent the ringing of bells to indicate the hours of the night and later extended to the 12-hour clock. We'd already seen the characters for hours, 点, and minutes, 分, before. So I added our third character, 秒, for seconds to complete the expressions for clock time. 3. The fourth character, 撞, for colliding or bumping, is often used in reference to cars. So I included the fifth character, 亮, as the necessary measure word for vehicles. 4. 切, today's sixth character, for a properly bitted female servant is uncommon in speech, but helps to explain the composition and logic of our seventh character, 接, which is undoubtedly the most useful verb in today's lesson. 接 originally referred to taking a female servant as part of a woman's dowry when marrying into the family of the emperor or a feudal lord. From there, it was generalized to the grafting of one plant to another, a process known to have been used in China well before 2000 BC. This gave rise to its current meanings of connecting, accepting, and receiving. Now you will find a short quiz on double, triple character, and long expressions. Answer using only the characters learned so far. Thank you for watching and listening.